Hello, and welcome back to another pen talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for enjoying the journey. I certainly do. And this is a pen which you might recognize from one of my AliExpress orders or pens of August. I get then confused. I've been investing in pens a lot lately, which is a good thing. So this is a very fashionable box with that great Moonman saying on it. A plastic sleeve, which I think is very nice because they have this folded closure, which kind of is reminiscent of a nib, breather hole, slit, etc. And your classic label for your SKU. This just slides off and the box just opens up. It's not hinged or anything. Nice metal box. And as we open it up, we'll see instructions, which Moonman has been doing a lot now. And it shows the different filling mechanisms and how to work a cartridge converter, vac filler, pump filler, eyedropper. It's nice. But what we're really interested in is the pen. Very good packaging. Comes with 2 nibs. Nice, these cutouts. It lets you remove the items from their nice firm foam enclosure. And it is an impressive writing instrument. Decent weight to it. It's not real heavy, but then you don't expect that. But it certainly is that clear resin that we've come to appreciate from Moonman and a number of different pens that they've made, and we're going to look at those in historical perspective. Your eyedropper with a nice red bulb at the end, and then 2 nibs, which we're going to extract and look at. And it does take some effort to get them out of that foam container, but I'd rather have them survive shipment rather than be easy to remove. Not something you're going to do multiple times a day. Now these are supposed to be medium and broad, and I definitely have 2 different size nibs there. And they are more of a stub variety, a little bit of an angle there, which is typical of some Asian nibs. I'm thinking Pilot on the Metropolitan, where their broads are more of a stub. But we're going to definitely try those out. They have nice little O-rings on them, so that's good. So let's do some review of this pen and its how it fits into the Moonman family. So what pen did I recently get? I got it today. Is this Jinhao 100 in this really nice orange resin. A future review to look forward to. So here's some pens, most of them Moonman, but not all of them. Here's the pen that set the world on fire when it first came out, the Lakai. I just think this was an excellent design. It's kind of domed acrylic, plugs at either end, nice machined acrylic. The fact that they frosted this piece where it comes together, it has a clear feed in it. But one of the main problems with this is that the original one came off in 2 turns, and then all of a sudden it took 7 turns to get the cap off. Kind of a lot. And you can see that frosted area there. So that was that pen. People discuss eyedroppers. Just wanted to show this one. As you can see, there's not a lot of ink in there. And this has been inked up for over a year. And yes, there's a little bit of ink splotches there, but I don't know a pen that won't do that. I write with this occasionally, but when I uncap it, and this is one that takes 2 turns, with just a little bit of effort, it writes after it's been sitting for a long time. So kudos to that design and how it works. Next came the M2. So the most prominent feature is pointy ends instead of flat ends. It's same nice clear acrylic, but a black feed now instead of a clear feed. And this is not opaque now like it was before. And they added this red metal ring to it. It was controversial. Some people pined for the original Lakai, but I enjoyed the pen. And they made a variation of it with different colored anodized sections, and the band matched the section. You know, and they're down to now less than 1.5 turns to get the cap off, so that was nice. So that was an interesting variation on the theme. To me, they hit it out of the ballpark with the C1, much larger pen, and now we see a number 6 nib in it. These also write first time every time. Some controversy over the section because you didn't get to choose your color. It came in a number of different colors, but all I thought very nice, different purples and reds there together. And this pen has been inked up since I originally got it. I like the way that ink color reflects in through the plugs, and you can see those nice clear plugs, that conical design, which is probably from the drill that went in there to originally hone it out. They came up with a variation of that towards the end of last year, which is this holiday pen. I thought it was nice that they, again, made a variation on it. And there's another section which is slightly different in color. When you bought the pen, most sellers are very clear. We're not going to be able to tell you what section you're going to get. Then they did the C2, which was very controversial. It has some design traits of reminiscent of an American pen maker. A little bit closer to 2 turns, but again, a number 6 nib. So here's a small pen, small like the Lakai and the M2, but they were able to put a number 6 nib on it. The section was kind of small. This pen really never worked in my environment, but now that I'm glad I have it because I can put it into this series. A fellow reviewer who recently did the S5, Doug, compared it to the 323. So we're going to do that a little bit later, but I have a 323 in clear, so you can see a lot of the attributes that's in common. Number 6 nib, not in common. And a very large capacity, as you can see, to ink it up. The M2 had a lot of emulators, and this is one that I've had for a while. I'm going to put all the pen reviews into a playlist and just give you the link to the playlist instead of adding individual links for all the videos. I figure I'd give that a try, something different. This pen's a workhorse and it cost a few bucks, so that really made it nice. So that's pens that I would put in perspective to the S5. The S5 is elegant as we compare it to the 323. The 323 is a bigger pen. You got that number 6 nib, but they're different pens. And the other thing to note is that, yes, this fits in the hand very nicely without being posted, but it does post, unlike the 323. But to me, the posting gets rid of that whole nice effect with that curve here that fits into your hand, and it just becomes a regular pen when you post it. But for those people that have to post, it works. As we put the 323 in our hand, we'll see again how it fits, that curve fits into the crook of your hand. I mean, if I was only going to pick one, the 323 is definitely a pen that I could live with. I think a lot of people like it. It is a writer's pen. It's a lot of a desk pen. You know, the cap doesn't post, so you need a place to put the cap. So I think it's very nice what Moonman has done with this design of the S5. Here we have the 2 caps to compare. The 323 cap and the S5. The S5 has a larger clear section there at the top of the cap, and the 323 is smaller. They both have that step there, but one of the differences is on the 323, as you can see, the ledge there seals up against the bottom of the section, but on the S5 it does not. So there's been questions as to why it's there. It should have been down here, so it does seal against the section. So Moonman has used this packaging concept before. This is the snowflake model, which we showed, and again has that red bulb at the end of the eyedropper and those instructions that we got with the S5. One of the attributes that makes the C1 unique is they made it big enough to be able to accept a converter. For those people that don't want to eyedropper it, you can use a converter or cartridges if you so desire. There you can see another one of the sections. This one's a little bit more red. Here are the 3 nibs that came with the S5. Here's the one that was in the S5, which is a fine. That's pretty fine. And here are the 2 spare nibs. The Moonman had a black O-ring at the bottom of this nib assembly. These both have clear O-rings. I don't think that matters. And this is definitely a wider nib, maybe medium, not much more than that. And here we have a broader nib, a broader stub, and that's definitely close to a broad. So you probably figure 0.5 millimeter, 0.7 millimeter, 0.9 to 1 millimeter on the other nib. So it's nice that they included those 2 other nibs. Let's see how they write. So no ink called out to me, so I decided I haven't used this ink for a while. Edelstein Aquamarine. I think it's a nice color to go in the clear pen. And the color card, it's certainly in the turquoise, teal, green, blue family. Maybe it'll show some shading. I hope that broad nib is on the wet side. When I did my flushing, the water came out very nicely. I used my Fanmu piston plunger thing here, and I'm not a fan. A lot of ink left there. I can't get it all out. So I think a regular eyedropper would be more efficient and not waste as much ink. So now I got to take this apart and clean it out. But I like it's a cool thing, and I think I will definitely use it for flushing. We're just using water in it. Flushing with water did not remove all the ink. So I unscrewed this end piece, which is threaded into the barrel, kind of like unscrewing the section of a pen. And then you take this plastic cap off of this piston, and it slides out the front end. It's nice that it has a 2 O-ring seal there. I'm going to silicone grease everything and put it back together, but cleaning it was a pain in the A. So we've inked up the pen, and one of the first things I noticed is the inside of the barrel, the ink doesn't stick to it. I'm not certain exactly what they might have done. Maybe that finish is so smooth and so polished that the ink doesn't stick to it. But most pens, and we'll look at the C1, the ink sticks. That roll stop is really a nice idea. I'm not exactly a fan of a crystal like that. I think I'd be more than happy with that just to be a little gold nib there, knob. But it is a well-designed pen. And I put in the broad nib, and that's the only one I'm going to put in here. We'll take a look at the writing in a bit. You may have said, Chris, you forgot a pen when you did your comparison review, and yes, I did. But when I used that Fanmu syringe, I remembered this pen, which also has the roll stop, done in a little bit different style. It also has that kind of smog acrylic with a nice green tinge to it. So we're going to be using this pen to write with too. And this has been inked up for a long time since I got it, and there's no ink in the cap. I've had very good luck with eyedroppers, except for the Noodler's Charlie, which came with a bottle of Bay State grape. I kind of like the ink. I haven't used it for a while. I think I'm going to dig it out and use it in a pen. But other than that, my eyedroppers have been fine. And I have carried them around. I don't travel like I used to, but I have carried them around, and they've survived good. So I've had some success. Maybe I run a little cold-blooded, so that might avoid some of that hand heat that would expand the air that would push the ink out, as Doug discussed. But I haven't had an issue, and I have probably 15 to 20 pens that are eyedropper. I would write with this pen unposted. It is on the light side, but it feels okay in the hand, and it certainly is very comfortable. So hopefully you've heard how very smooth this nib is. It's as smooth as any nib I've ever written with. And that's not necessarily a trait of a nib like this with that stub-like quality to it, but they've certainly ground it well to work well, and I love the way it shows off this aquamarine ink. And this is somewhat of a dry ink, so that works out well. So, kudos. I love the nib. I'm not even going to try the other two. No need for. But I'll show you what they may look like. So this is the Fan Moo. And it has Robert Oster turquoise. And I butchered that, but you get the idea. And this is also a smooth nib. Lays down a decent amount of ink. It's actually wetter than the Moonman S5. Here's the HYL, which is injection molded, and it's a fine nib. And this one has a little bit of a flow issue. I haven't used it much. I did try to get the flow going, but I didn't work on it enough. But you can see how fine that is. And that's what you would expect with the Moonman fine nib if you had it in the pen. So I've used many different nibs in my Lakai pens, number 5 nibs. This is Knox broad that's been ground to a left oblique, and this just works extremely well. And this didn't have that skipping issues that I had with that HYL pen. And you can see how the ink sticks to the barrel, has stained the barrel a little bit. This is a purple glitter ink from Pen BBS. So here's a glitter ink that's been in a pen for a year, and it was full when I first had it. I've written a lot of letters with it, and it still works extremely well. So again, many people have challenges with certain inks, certain pens, certain filling systems, but thankfully I've been lucky. You know, maybe it's because I ate the right kind of food. So lastly, we're going to do the C1, and you see the C1 also, the ink tends to stick to that inside of the barrel much more than it does on the S5. So it'll be interesting over time if the S5 does start to cling, you know, maybe the ink washes away whatever coating is in there, but I'm impressed with it in the beginning. And I think this is an excellent nib. You know, it's called a fine, but it really writes more like a fine medium. And this pen I've had inked up for almost a year, I think over a year. It writes first time every time. I can leave it set for a couple months, just uncap it and touch nib to paper, and ink flows well. Again, none of those issues like I had up here with the HYL. And the HYL had diamine teal in it, and this has diamine bilberry, so it's both a similar type of ink. And I am terrible with spelling, but you get the idea. So now it's time for me to rate the pen. And with this nib, it's going to get a 9.4. One check for the nib. I give it 2 checks for the nib because I really like the nib. 2 checks for the design. A check for the build quality and everything else that the pen has to offer. Why not higher than a 9.4? Well, the section's a little bit on the small side. It could be bigger. They could have easily got a number 6 nib in there. I think that crystal is not my preference to a roll stop, but it does function and work well. So that's where we're at. And I could write with this. A lot of letters are going to have this S5 in them. So we've reached the end of this video, so thank you for watching. May you have many great writing experiences and explore the wonderful world of pens you see when you join me on my journey. Be safe, be healthy, be happy. This is the end. And we're going to say bye until the next video. Wow, nice ink nib combo.